You point out one wrong number in a report, and suddenly your coworker is furious. You remind your partner that they left the front door unlocked, and the entire evening turns cold. You tell your child, you still haven't put your shoes away, and somehow a simple observation becomes a full emotional explosion. And you are left thinking, what did I do? I did not insult anyone. I did not raise my voice. I only stated a fact. But here is the uncomfortable possibility. A sentence can be factually correct and still feel like a verdict. Not because facts are bad, not because everyone around you is too sensitive, but because human beings do not hear information in a vacuum. We also hear what that information seems to say about who is above, who is below, who is competent, who is disappointing, and whose version of reality gets to win. Once you understand that hidden layer, many confusing arguments begin to make sense. And more importantly, you can tell the truth without turning the other person into the defendant. Imagine a manager saying, "This report was submitted 3 days late." On the surface, that is data. There was a deadline. The report arrived after it. No insult is required. But now imagine you are the employee hearing it. Perhaps the manager says it in front of the team. Perhaps she sighs before she speaks. Perhaps this is the third time she has corrected you this week. Perhaps your job already feels uncertain. The sentence still contains the same data, but it may carry another message. I am the responsible one here. You are the problem. I am evaluating you. You have disappointed me again. Communication researchers have long distinguished between the content of a message and what the message implies about the relationship. The content answers, what happened? The relationship layer answers, what does this moment say about you, me, and the position each of us occupies? We rarely announce that second message. We do not say, I am about to place myself in the role of judge and you in the role of careless defendant. We simply say, the report is late, but tone, timing, facial expression, history, and power can finish the sentence for us. That is why two people can walk away from the same conversation carrying completely different stories. One person thinks, I provided useful information. The other thinks, I was humiliated. One is still discussing the report. The other is defending a sense of dignity. This does not mean the listener's interpretation is always accurate. People can misread neutral comments. They can bring old wounds, insecurity, or shame into an ordinary correction. But it also does not mean the speaker is neutral simply because every word is technically true. A fact can be selected, timed, and delivered in a way that quietly communicates contempt. Think about the difference between these two sentences. There are 5 incorrect numbers in this report, and there are 5 incorrect numbers in this report. Again. That final word contains almost no new information about the document. Its real function is relational. It says, this mistake belongs to a pattern, and that pattern tells me something bad about you. This is where the mind performs an astonishing little leap. A useful model, sometimes called the ladder of inference, describes how we move from an observation to a story so quickly that we barely notice the climb. At the bottom is something a camera could record. You entered the meeting at 9:10. Then the mind selects context. Everyone else was already seated. Then it adds meaning. You did not care enough to arrive on time. Then it assigns motive. You do not respect the team. And at the top comes identity. You are irresponsible. The observable event is 10 minutes of lateness. The conclusion is a judgment about character. Now notice how easily speaker and listener can stand on different steps of that ladder. The speaker points to the bottom and says, you were 10 minutes late. The listener hears the top. You think I am irresponsible. Then both become confused. The speaker says, I never said that. The listener says, you did not have to. Sometimes the listener climbed the ladder alone. Sometimes the speaker communicated the top step through a look, a pause, or a familiar tone. Most often, both people contributed to the meaning without realizing it. And when people sense rejection, humiliation, or loss of status, the body can respond as if something important is at risk. Research on social pain suggests that social threat and physical pain can recruit some overlapping systems, although they are not identical experiences, and there is no single pain center that explains every reaction. The practical point is simpler than the neuroscience. Feeling judged can narrow attention. It can make a person scan for danger, prepare a defense, and lose some ability to consider the information with curiosity. They may argue about a tiny detail, attack your tone, bring up your previous mistakes, go silent, or leave the room. You think they are refusing to discuss the fact. They may be trying to escape the identity they believe the fact has assigned to them. This pattern becomes even more intense in close relationships because a small sentence carries the weight of a long history. Suppose one partner says, "You left the front door unlocked when you went out." The content is simple, the door was unlocked. But if this couple has argued for years about responsibility, the listener may hear, "I have to remember everything because you cannot be trusted. You are another burden I have to manage." Now the response, "Why do you always talk to me like I'm a child?" seems unrelated to the lock, but emotionally it is perfectly related to the message they heard. Parenting offers another version. A parent sees shoes in the hallway and says, "How many times do I have to tell you? You never put anything away." The parent believes the subject is shoes. The child may hear, "You are messy, you are difficult. I am disappointed in the kind of person you are becoming." The child argues, cries, or shuts down. The parent becomes even more frustrated. "Why can't you accept one simple fact?" But "you never put anything away" is not a simple fact. It compresses many moments into a global identity. It turns a solvable behavior into a description of the person. So how do you communicate something uncomfortable without making it meaningless, dishonest, or painfully soft? The answer is not to wrap every sentence in praise. It is not to hide mistakes. And it is not to spend your life managing every possible interpretation in another person's mind. The goal is to remove unnecessary threat so the real problem can finally be seen. The first shift is to state your intention before the difficult information. When the emotional stakes are high, do not assume your goodwill is obvious. Make the relationship message explicit. Instead of opening with, "Your budget is 30% over," try, "I want us to get this project across the finish line, and I'm not here to erase the work you've already done. There's one budget issue we need to solve together." Then show the number. The fact has not changed. The overspend has not disappeared. You have simply answered the question the other person's nervous system may be asking. Are you here to help me solve this, or are you here to prove that I am the problem? In a relationship, it might sound like, "I'm bringing this up because I want mornings to feel less stressful for both of us, not because I think you are irresponsible. Can we look at what keeps getting missed before we leave?" With a child, "You're not in trouble, and I'm not saying you're a messy person. The shoes are blocking the hallway. Let's put them where they belong." This is not a trick. If your real intention is to shame someone, a warm introduction will not hide it for long. The safety comes from genuine alignment between what you say and what you want. The second shift is to remove hidden evaluation and return to what a camera could record. Words like always, never, again, careless, lazy, and selfish often pretend to describe reality while quietly delivering a sentence about identity. Compare, "You are always late," with, "You arrived after 9:15 for all 3 morning meetings this week." Compare, "You are careless with data," with, "I found 5 numbers in this report that do not match the source's spreadsheet." Compare, "You never listened to me," with, "While I was explaining what happened, you looked at your phone and changed the subject before I finished." The second version is not weaker, it is more precise. It gives the other person something they can examine, explain, correct, or change. A character accusation has no obvious finish line. How does someone prove they are not careless? A bounded observation creates a possible next step. There is another benefit. Precision protects you from your own ladder of inference. It forces you to separate what you saw from the story you attach to it. Maybe the person was late because they do not respect the meeting, or maybe a childcare handoff failed. Maybe they left the door unlocked because they expect someone else to handle every detail. Or maybe they were rushing a sick dog to the vet. You do not have to pretend every explanation is equally likely. You only have to admit when motive is an inference rather than an observation. The third shift is to move from face-to-face judgment to side-by-side problem solving. Picture 2 people sitting across a table. One person places a flawed report between them and points toward the other. The physical arrangement resembles a courtroom. Evidence in the middle, judge on one side, accused on the other. Now change the scene. Put the report on a shared screen. Sit next to each other. Point at the same number and say, this result is different from the source data. Let's trace where it changed. The problem is no longer evidence against a person. It becomes the thing both people are looking at. This is partly physical, but mostly psychological. You can create the same shift with language. How do we prevent this next time? What is the system missing? Which part can you own? And which part should I change? Notice that collaboration does not erase responsibility. If one person made the error, they can still correct it. If a pattern continues, consequences may still be necessary. Shoulder to shoulder does not mean nobody is accountable. It means accountability serves repair instead of humiliation. There is also an important boundary here. Some people react aggressively to any feedback, no matter how carefully it is delivered. Some use anger, silence, or tears to avoid responsibility. Some relationships contain contempt, intimidation, or abuse. Better phrasing cannot make an unsafe person safe, and you are not required to become infinitely gentle before you are allowed to name a problem. These tools are for removing threat that is unnecessary, not accepting behavior that is unacceptable. You are responsible for your clarity, your timing, your tone, and the judgments you smuggle into your words. The other person remains responsible for how they respond. That distinction matters because otherwise communication advice turns into another impossible burden. If they became upset, you must have said it wrong. No. Sometimes you communicated poorly. Sometimes they listened through an old wound. Sometimes the fact itself is painful. And sometimes both people need to repair their part. The mature question is not only, was my sentence correct? It is also, what relationship did my sentence create while I was saying it? Did it make one person the expert and the other person the failure? Did it turn a behavior into an identity? Did it invite curiosity or make self-defense the only dignified response? Truth matters. Accuracy matters. Boundaries matter. But if your goal is change, being correct is only the beginning of communication, not the end. You can win the sentence and lose the person. You can prove the number and make the real problem impossible to discuss. Or you can place the truth where both of you can see it, protect the dignity of the people looking at it, and ask, what do we do with this now? The deepest skill in difficult communication is not learning how to make facts softer. It is learning how to make truth feel like something you can face together.